All right, we're live. Football's back, man.
Yes.
Football's back. I gotta tell you, I'm not much of a preseason guy. Historically, I've certainly before I started writing, I never paid attention because it was like I don't want to get too invested in some of these guys, and people kind of freak out every year, and I just I just really haven't. I didn't get into it the last few years. I had a lot of fun going back and watching the game. I don't know what that was all about.
It's we no longer have Matt Nagy's offense.
Sure.
I think it's so much of the hope. It's something that
Yeah.
you really touched on for your summer podcast series, the Hopium Den. There's just so much hope amongst our fan base, and it's in us too. I think we're just excited to see how this team is going to turn out. And we're not expecting a Super Bowl, but it's fun. This is a fun time of year right now to be a Bears fan.
Yeah, I agree. I think that we'll get into that a little bit in the show, but it felt a little bit like you could kind of see that hits philosophy coming through. I mean, I don't know. I had a lot of fun watching the defense, and I'm talking about even the twos and the threes. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is going to cut through a new defense that's not super talented, like hot knife through butter. I get that. It's Patrick Mahomes. He's a top one quarterback, right? I mean, he's the best quarterback in the league. Or if you want to like put him in a tier, he's a top three quarterback, and they don't need time to ramp up. They've been in the same system, and they're just a well-oiled machine. So I wasn't really surprised that he came out and looked good. But the twos and the threes, like they're flying around the football, they're taking it away, they're hungry for it. A couple guys coming off the edge. I don't know, man. Like I was like, I can see it.
Well, the players have all bought in too. I mean, you
Yeah.
heard it in the during the game, they interviewed a couple Bears, and they talk about the hits and something we've heard that the players talk about the whole offseason. I mean, it's the new regime. It's the first off season. Of course, there's going to be some buy-in, but it's still good to hear. It's good to hear from the players, and it's good to see it actually on the field as well, which is what the really cool part is.
Yeah, it's really fun. Those of you that are joining us on the live stream, really appreciate that. Drop your questions and comments into that comment field, and we'll pick those up at the end. Might notice a new background, playing around with it. It's not perfect yet, but playing around with the new background for the season. We're trying to get the YouTube stuff up and snuff. So this is the first.
Fancy.
Yeah, I kind of just went crazy yesterday. I had this vision of the Staley, the mascot, being like Lady Justice with the scales up at the top right above Lester's head, and I had to finish it off with a headband over his eyes instead of a bandana over the eyes like the statue, and so I went with the sweetness headband instead. So I don't know. I had a lot of fun doing that. Took way too much time.
That's part of it. I mean, that's why we do this. It's we're creative. We like to do stuff like this, and I love it. I think it's cool.
Yeah, fun stuff. So, all right. Well, I'm excited to talk about that. The first preseason game. I can't even believe I said that out loud, but yeah. I'm excited to talk about this game. So why don't we get into this thing?
Let's kick it off.
All right. Welcome to Bear and Balance. I'm Jeff Berckes, a writer for Windy City Gridiron, and I'm joined by the editor of that fine website, Lester A. Wiltfong Jr. Lester, real football, fake football. I don't know where you stand on that, but football was played, and the Bears won the game. How did you take in the first football action of the season?
I've always liked preseason. I'm not watching for the wins or the losses. I'm watching for the position battles. I like seeing those young guys really fight for a roster spot. And, it's not only the young guys, it's some of the guys that are going to be starters, trying to, they're competing for a starting job. So I've always enjoyed preseason. I'm not going to watch a lot of other preseason games because I don't know a lot of those guys in the roster. But, when it comes to preseason, though, I'm all in when it comes to the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, it was interesting. So I'm in Des Moines, and so I'm actually closer to Kansas City than I am to Chicago. And so the broadcast team that I was subjected to was actually the Chiefs broadcast team yesterday. So it was all of those player hits on the sideline. They were Chiefs. I didn't get to see any of the Bear stuff until I went back and watched all that stuff today. And then I was watching the condensed, so I didn't get to see the full interviews with like Mooney and Jalen Johnson and guys like that. I just saw that they got interviewed and little hits like that. But it was interesting to kind of see it from their perspective because they just wouldn't even call out who made tackles. for Bears player, second string, third string guy would make a tackle, and he'd be like, "Oh, and our guy got brought down in the backfield." And it's like, help me out. Look at your sheet and call it out, because I don't know all these numbers yet either. So that was really fascinating and interesting. But I think you probably got the local feed and Jim Miller, right?
Yeah, it was Jim Miller, Adam Amin. It was a nice broadcast. But it's preseason for them too. Like you said, they didn't know a lot of the players. There was a point where they mentioned Jaquan Brisker making a play where he wasn't even in the game. So I know a lot of people get riled up when those mistakes happen. It's like, come on, it's preseason for everyone. Half the guys in this team are going to be gone. Let's cut those guys a break. It's football. It's fun to watch.
Now, when I was watching on the condensed broadcast, is it Chris Fink or Chris Finke?
I guess it's Fink. I thought.
Yeah,
it was
okay.
Finke.
They kept saying Fink,
Yeah.
and I was like, we had been saying Finke. So,
Yeah.
And not that we'll probably need to learn that, but it is Fink season, not Finke season, I guess.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, we're back into the format, man. Like, this is real
Full
football.
on, yep.
So this is back in the full format. It's just you and me. We're going to go through all of the categories. I had fun going through this, but we start off every show with a Trench tribute. And I have a feeling where both of us want to go, but I will let you lead off.
I have a feeling the same thing.
Okay.
So I'm going to go a different direction here.
Okay.
And I actually have two guys here, but I'm going to talk about Trayvon Coley.
Wow.
Defensive tackle. He had 2 sacks, 2 tackles for loss, 3 quarterback hits. And you know what? I know he had the sacks when I watched the game live, but when I rewatched it, this guy's got some really active hands. He's like 6'1", 305. He's a little undersized, but in this scheme, he's a one gap penetrator. He's a pretty good athlete. I mean, he's on the outside looking in for a roster spot, but who knows? Stranger things have happened. He was an undrafted free agent in 2016. This is actually his 9th NFL stop in his career.
Whoa.
So this guy has been plugging along, trying to make a name. And like I said, the thing that stood out to me was his hands. I was really impressed with how active his hands were. He had some nice moves there, trying to from pass rushing from the inside. So for me, I'm going to go Trayvon Coley for my first Trench tribute of the season.
That's awesome. I did not expect you to go that direction. I had a couple offensive linemen written down in case you wanted to talk about Braxton Jones. He looked pretty good, man.
Yes.
Like I just continue to be impressed with him. I was totally convinced that when the Bears signed Riley Reef, that they said, okay, he's looked pretty good, but we're going to bring in a vet. He's going to learn from him. He's going to sit behind him for a year. And that's what, that's how it started. And then they kicked Riley Reef over to right tackle, and Reef has not come back. And it's been Braxton Jones since then. And he needs a couple strong performances to seal that starting job up. And he started off on the right foot. He looked really good. I'm really impressed. I also had Larry Borum written down because I'm impressed with Larry Borum.
Exactly.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. He bounced both sides, played a little on both sides yesterday. And I continue to be impressed with just how he wins. I just think he wins with his frame in pass pro, and he just gets out of his stance real nice, real quick, and he sets up, and he just doesn't allow people past him. I mean, it's just like, I'm a big dude, and I'm out of my set quick, and good luck. And so I'm really impressed with Larry Borum. I think he can be a swing tackle, and maybe he works his way into one of those starting jobs. Maybe the right tackle job after Reef is done with his 1 year, or maybe he's pressed into duty if Reef has to miss time. Those guys impressed me. The tackles impressed me.
Yeah, I figured Borum would be the swing guy. That's why I had him pegged that all off season. Then of course the drama happened with Tevin Jenkins. The Bears signed Reef. So there was a lot of fluctuation amongst those tackle spots. But I was like, I had Borum written down. I wanted to make sure we talked about him at some point. A lot of players can't go right to left. It's totally different mindset. I know there's some fans that think, who cares? What's the difference? Tackles tackle. It's just not the case. Some guys can do it. Some guys can't do it. It's hard. It's like you're changing everything you do. Everything is totally opposite. So the fact that he was able to do it, have some success, I thought it was pretty good. So I'm glad you mentioned Borum. I wanted to talk about him too, but of course, Braxton Jones, he looks like the real deal. Yeah. Again, one game. It wasn't clean. I started going through the film, and there was a couple things he has to clean up. But rookie left tackle, I thought he looked pretty good.
Yeah, I am impressed that Borum can switch back and forth. Like you mentioned, there's not a lot of guys that can do that. I think that because he has been asked to do that, that gives him reps on both sides, and he can kind of go that ambidextrous, if you will. But like you're saying, it's hard to get that muscle memory, right? You're used to hitting your kick step with with a certain sequence on the left side, and then you have to reverse all of that on the right side. That is not easy. How many baseball hitters hit from both sides of the plate?
Yeah.
Right. I mean, that's to me, that's kind of what it is. There's some guys that can do it and do it well. Some guys maybe hit for more power on one side versus the other. It gives them an advantage, all that kind of stuff. It's just not everybody. Not everybody can hit from both sides. I feel it's the same way. I feel like some guys just get locked in, or they feel much more comfortable in those spots. If Borum is able to show his value and be a swing tackle, I think it's great. It's a great result, and he works hard. He's an easy guy to cheer for. And so, I've been cheering for him to nail down a future with this ball club, and I think he's doing it.
Yeah, for sure.
All right. So what about Twitter? We got to get back into pulling up tweets of the week. So I'll let you start.
I kind of was going through my feed, and then I kind of, searched hashtag Bears. And then I saw this pop up. And when I saw it, I'm like, I want to make sure we do have a chance to talk about this. It was Adam Hogue, and he's at Adam Hogue. Of course, he's the Bears beat guy for CHGO. He had a comment during the game. The Bears rushing to the line to get the next playoff was refreshing. And of course, what he was talking about was the play after that really nice one-handed catch by Taj Sharp on the sideline. It was a clean catch, but at the time, in real-time action, they don't know that. The fact that the Bears are coached up to be so aware of it, that, hey, this is a questionable play, let's hustle to the line, and let's get the next play off before the other team has a chance to look at it and review it. I thought that's just a great coaching point, and it's great for us to point out, because it's a new regime now. I mean, it seems like that's it's the SMART in the HITS principle. The S stands for playing smart, and that was such a smart thing for the offense to do right there.
Yeah, and that actually started a sequence of good plays being stacked together. That was the best sequence that the offense had. They were backed up inside the 10 before that catch by Sharp, which is an amazing catch. I mean, just kind of one-handed it back to himself and caught it, tapped the feet. And then Fields gets up, and he runs for a first down. And then there was another nice play down the field. Like, I mean, there was just this nice sequence there that kicked off. So yeah, very smart play. I'm highlighting our friend EJ Snyder. Nice. He's at the Draftsman FB. I didn't need to write that down because I have written that so many times in articles over the years. But he says Brisker is the real deal. Not that was in question. Showed all the things he showed on tape. Game doesn't look too big or too fast for him at all. He'll be a playmaker, difference maker very soon in Chicago. And I don't think there was I think we knew that. Like, it looked like he belonged right away, but it was nice to see him in full action. He was coming off the edge. He was coming down in the box to make run stops. He had a tackle for loss. He had tackles in the open field. He had a pass breakup that was pretty close to getting picked off. Like, I mean, that would have been a really great interception, but a nice pass breakup and read the quarterback. Quarterback made a mistake throwing back across his body, but still, like, made him pay for it. Incomplete pass, almost really made him pay for it with an interception. He's flying around the football, flying around the field. He's got a nose for the football. I think he's going to be a lot of fun. I think he's going to be a fan favorite very quickly.
The nice thing about Brisker in this game is, he didn't play the whole game. Obviously, it's preseason, but he showed the total package. Like you said, he was playing in the box. He was playing some single high stuff. He was back in two deep stuff. So he showed everything. He showed good against the run. He showed he could cover, and he showed a physical presence where, it's still football. Those type of hits in the secondary, those are things that receivers think about. If you're going over the middle and Brisker's back there, he's going to lay the wood on you. It was a clean hit. The stuff he did. That's something offenses think about. That's something that they game plan against. And that's, receivers don't want to get hit like that. So if there's a questionable pass that's not a perfect throw to them, and they have to go up and get it or extend to get it, it's going to be in the back of their mind that Jaquan Brisker guy's going to come in, with the wood right there.
Yeah, I definitely don't want to get hit by a guy like Brisker. He's a missile. Yeah. So yeah, no, it's exciting. And again, I think we're going to start seeing a lot of number 9 jerseys. I really do.
Yeah.
I think people are going to like this guy a lot. And I love defensive backs. So that's part of just me. I was born into an offensive lineman's body, but I always wish that I could play defensive back. It was just to me, it's a fun position on the football field. I always like watching those guys. They become my favorites very easy. So let's move on to our caught up in the numbers game. We try to pull a stat from the game or from the context of the situation and try to illuminate that. So what did you come up with?
So my number this week is 5 for 32. And what that
Sacks?
is, no, that is actually the penalties for the Bears.
Oh, okay.
It's not a clean number, obviously, but last year's first preseason game for the Bears under the previous regime against the Dolphins, they had 9 penalties. So that was cut down significantly. I think Coach Flus in his post-game press conference mentioned that of those 5, there were no pre-snap penalties. Again, something that the previous regime that we saw a lot of. So I mean, if this is an emphasis. I mean, this is something that the coach brought up after the game that he was really pleased with his team there for not having those pre-snap penalties. So again, it points to the coaching. It points to being prepared. And then Anthony Herron was actually on the Fox local post-game show, and he was talking about how much he thought the team looked prepared. And again, Coach Flus, his staff, he has this team playing. I mean, the talent's not going to be there, but if you're well coached and you play the game the right way, good things tend to happen. And that's where I think this Bears team is going to be this season.
Yeah, I don't want to make this comparison because I don't want people to throw rocks at me. But if you watch the Lions last year, they did not have talent, but they were in a lot of games and they were playing hard and they really cared. I think the Bears have more talent than the Lions did last year, but this is not a team that is rich in talent right now. They are turning over the roster. And so in a way, the best case scenario is that this team's feisty and is going to, that discipline and that intensity is going to keep you in games, and you're going to be able to beat other bad teams that don't have that, and then you're going to be able to stay in games with teams that are average to good and maybe steal some of them. And so if you bring that well-disciplined approach and that intensity, and you believe, you can win more games than you probably should. And so that should give fans a little bit of hope that this team could have a pretty good record. Again, I don't want to say that this is like the Lions from last year, because the Lions from last year lost a lot of games and they were bad, but they built a lot of enthusiasm in their fan base because they were feisty and they were a fun team to watch, biting kneecaps and all that kind of stuff. You don't need that here, but my number is 96. Oh, by the way, the Bears did give up 5 sacks, but it was only for 25 yards. So
they did.
I was like, I thought 5. I thought I knew where you're going. Okay, my number is 96. That is all-purpose yards for one Mr. Treston Ebner. He had 6 carries for 31 rushing yards, 1 nice angle route catch for a touchdown, and then he had 2 kick returns for 53 yards. You think they're going to try to get the ball to Treston Ebner this year?
I mean, at Baylor, he was a do-it-all kind of guy. He was a special teamer. He was a former receiver, so he has good receiving skills. And of course, he was a tailback. So when he was picked, I didn't know a lot about him in the draft. But of course, what we always do, we go back, we take a look at the film, and I was impressed with what I saw with him at Baylor. He just is a smart football player. Again, he kind of fits in what the Bears want to do. A real good guy off the field as well. So with Ebner, man, I mean, he has a chance to be a part of this offense. I mean, he's not going to be the number one. That's Montgomery, but I think he's going to push Khalil Herbert for some touches here.
Yeah, and a threat out of the backfield in the passing game, and that's important. He's going to get touches and kick returns. That's pretty clearly his job. And I mean, our friend Robert Schmitz, very excited. Baylor Bear, right?
Baylor Bear, yeah.
Baylor Bear to Chicago Bear. I was really impressed. We were impressed with his speed in camp. It looked like they were trying to get him involved early in camp, and I think that there's enough tea leaves here to read that he's going to have a role in this offense quickly. Too much speed and too much talent to keep out there. So excited about his debut. Fields report. Let's move on to that. I moved that up before the break because I think that we need to make sure we're talking about Fields early and often this year. So I'm kicking that up into the agenda. 4 for 7, 48 yards. He took 2 sacks, scrambled once for that 10-yard gain. Did not lead the team to any points, although I don't really understand what happened on that last drive where they sort of had something going and then just ran the ball a couple times and then
Yeah.
decided to punt on whatever that was, 4th and 5 on the 45. I didn't really understand that. It's preseason, let's try to get some points on the board, but did not get hurt, which
Yeah.
is the number one thing in a preseason game. He did look pretty confident, I thought, delivered a couple nice balls, took underneath when it was given, had a couple drops, which, he can't do much about that. Overall, I thought that he looked okay. I mean, he's progressing in a brand new offense with a brand new scheme, and he looks more confident.
It's his processing ability. That's what a lot of fans want to see. They want to see him speed up things a little bit. And there's actually a good video breakdown. JT O'Sullivan, the QB school, I had a chance to watch that today. Former NFL quarterback, does a great job breaking down quarterbacks. And he talked about Justin Fields, that his process has sped up this year. And he pointed out a couple plays where he was a little too quick to go through his reads, which for what he says is better than being too slow. So the fact that he's seeing it and he's making the right reads. And then one thing we saw in this game is his willingness to check down, which is something we saw in camp as well. Some fans look at that as, I don't want to check down Charlie at quarterback. That's smart football. Sometimes the check down is better than taking the sack. Sometimes it's better to not force the ball deep. If it's not there, if you're not completely confident in your ability to get the ball where you want to go deep, check it down, make the safe play, get it in your playmaker's hands. We already talked about Treston Ebner. We've yet to see a guy like Berckes Jones. So there are some speedy playmakers on this team that they're not household names, but I think Justin Fields has some confidence in these guys, and I think that he's going to be making the smart play and getting the ball down to them.
Yeah, and I don't know if Herbert is going to be losing time to Ebner based on that fact alone, but Ebner looks a little bit more fluid out of the backfield than Herbert did yesterday. That's just one game, but you can see that if you can provide an explosive play on a check down like Ebner can, that might be a path to being able to get on the field a little bit more. And Ebner, he had that one really nice run too at that juke, like, oh man, yeah, I think he's an explosive play waiting to happen. I mean, I think everybody wanted to quick say, hey, this is like the Treat Cohen replacement. I mean, different players, but juice. Like he's bringing juice. So if Fields is going to take those, you want to have those guys that can not just catch the ball and fall forward for 1.5 yards, but can actually make a guy miss or break a tackle and create it into a chunk play. And just because it's a check down doesn't mean that it can't be a good gain or at least a positive for the offense. Overall, though, you're seeing a lot of that former quarterback or the quarterback experts talk about Justin Fields' mechanics looking like they're cleaned up a little bit. We saw them roll the pocket. We saw him take off, right? As all these things that we were begging for last year. The routes were not these static curl routes. There were some downfield throws that he made and were converted, right? That Fields to Mooney throw was fun. I mean, at first I was like, I don't know how to take this. But he clearly saw the coverage, knew that he trusted Mooney to make the adjustment and go up and get it. And it was a great completion. Like he knew that he had man coverage. The guy wasn't looking, he could throw it up to him. Mooney made the adjustment and pulled down the football. Fields to Mooney is going to be a thing.
That's for sure a thing. And I know this is the Fields report, but I think we should talk about the other quarterbacks a little bit. Trevor Simeon, I thought he played pretty good. He looks like a legit vet backup, which is what you want to have in his team. And even Peterman was okay at times, but all these quarterbacks, what they did do is they executed the game plan, and which brings us to Luke Getsy. And I think that there was a nice flow to his play calls. One thing they mentioned in the Chicago feed, which I wasn't aware of, that I guess in Green Bay, Matt LaFleur let Getsy call some plays in preseason, which is what a lot of head coaches do. But I wasn't aware that had happened. So the fact that Getsy had some of that in his experience, I think it's good for him. I mean, he's not a first-time play caller. He's done a little bit here, but the flow he had, the way he was setting some things up, we talk about the Shanahan-esque offense. It was just nice to see how it all kind of came together. And it's gonna, this is just day one, preseason, so it's gonna be better as the year goes on.
Yeah, absolutely. Here's the thing: look like a real professional offensive
Professional,
system,
yeah.
right? I mean, it's not perfect yet, and there's going to be a lot of growth. And you're in the 10. I even hate to say this because that was what the last guy said, but you're in that 101 stage, right,
Yeah.
where you're learning that initial stuff, and there's a whole universe of this offense that you're yet to discover, that you get to. But again, it's an actual offensive system, not a collection of plays that some guy liked to put on his wall as wallpaper. So, all right, well, we'll take a quick break, pause for the sponsors, and we'll be back on the other end with the Three Bears.
Yes.
All right, Lester, we're back. So let's talk about the Three Bears. So for those of you that are new to this segment, we pick out the hot bowl of porridge, cold bowl of porridge, and the just right bowl of porridge. Basically, guy that exceeded expectations, guy that maybe struggled a little bit, and then a guy that hit those expectations, and that's good to see, right? So let's start off with hot bowl of porridge. Who did you want to highlight here?
I had two guys written down here because I know I have a feeling we're both
Okay,
going to
I'll
go
go
in this.
first then.
Oh,
I'll go first.
yeah, you can go first then.
If you got two, because I only got one. So
Okay.
I mean, I could have gone more, right? But
Yeah.
but to me, this guy was enough to where I just had to make sure that he got fed.
Yeah.
So Jack Sanborn.
There it is. That's the guy. Yeah.
Okay, so 7 tackles, 1 pass defense, 1 interception, 1 fumble recovery, multiple special team stops. So I mean, this is called filling the stat sheet. And this is an undrafted free agent linebacker. And some people were very excited. Our friend EJ Snyder very excited when they signed Sanborn to a contract. And I mean, this guy, he's not getting cut. He's making plays all over the field, making plays on special teams. This guy's going to be part of the Bears. No question about it in my mind at this point.
You know, when the Bears signed him as an undrafted free agent, a lot of fans, because he did have a lot of productivity in Wisconsin. A lot of fans thought this would be the one guy that may stick out. And first preseason game, he was the one guy that really stuck out. And I think he has a great. I mean, before the game, I thought he had a great chance to make the roster. Now seeing the game, he was used a ton on special teams. He had the most special teams reps. And for those reserves, that's what you kind of look at when preseason, see who has the most time playing special teams. That kind of gives you an idea how the Bears view them, the future of them. And, once the season starts, he had the most reps. He had, like I said, he filled the stat sheet. He had the 7 total tackles, 5 on defense, 2 on special teams, but he was around the ball all day. Jack Sanborn is he's definitely a player to look at. He's not going to be the next starter. I know I saw some guys in my mention saying, "Oh, trade Roquan because Jack Sanborn." Oh, come on. He's an undrafted
pump
free
the
agent.
brakes on that one,
Yeah,
guys. But this is a
nice,
guy. He looks like he's going to make the roster, and that's great, right? I mean, if you can get value, I mean, the story of NFL roster building so much is that you need stars. You need stars to exceed their contracts if possible, but sometimes you just need stars to meet their contracts. And then you need to fill in the team with contributors because they're cheap contracts. That's how you can afford the stars, right? This isn't baseball where you can pay a luxury tax. I mean, you can do a little bit where you don't have very much into your salary cap and you roll over a bunch, because there's a couple years rolling average of how they calculate that. And then you could throw a bunch into a year or two. So you could condense things and try to, play the game a little bit. For the most part, teams are looking for excess value in contracts. That's what they're doing. And you have to get contributions from undrafted free agents or late round picks to balance out where you're going to spend more money, particularly when you get to the point when you're paying a quarterback. And so you need Jack Sanborns to make teams work. So he's not Roquan replacement. He's valuable contributor on special teams and a guy that can play in a pinch. And that's great. You want those.
I mean, he did play some Mike in the game. He played outside. I think he has a chance to push for some reps at the Sam, possibly the next 2 preseason games. It's going to be fun watching him play, watching him grow here. And like I said, like we both said, I think he's at this point he's a lock.
Who'd you get?
My other guy we talked about already. It's Jaquan Brisker. I just wanted to make sure we had a chance to talk about Brisker a little bit. 4 tackles, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass defense. Like I said, good in every aspect of the game. Coming up and play the run, his coverage ability, and then his physicality. Just I wanted to make sure that I had a feeling we're both going to go with Sanborn because he was, clearly the player of the game. But I want to make sure we did have a chance to talk about Brisker, which we did. So that's good.
I also just mentioned Taj Sharp.
There you
A
go.
couple nice catches, making a case to be one of those wide receivers. That 6 wide receiver room is starting to get interesting. Who are you going to keep in addition to Darnell Mooney and Velus Jones and Byron Pringle? Those guys are pretty much locks. You figure they're going to probably put N'Keal Harry on, some sort of short-term IR to start the year, and so there's going to be an extra spot opened up. But who are the guys that are going to have that opportunity to make that first roster? Who are the guys that they're going to cut and hope that they can bring back on the practice squad and try to develop a little more? This guy's a veteran, though. He's going to need to make the roster. I would think. I don't think he's got any, practice squad eligibility left, and so Sharp making a case, and I thought he looked good. He's a professional wide receiver, and brought down a tough ball, and then just got open on, I think, kind of a broken coverage on the second one, but came down with both of them. To me, that's what he did what he could with those opportunities. We should at least make sure we mention him here, because that's important for his future on this team.
Yeah, as far as a practice squad, I know they continued those COVID rules where they let some veterans be on the practice squad now. And I think they actually may have extended it. So, Sharp could be a guy that lands on the practice squad. And you mentioned, I wanted to real quick mention the short-term IR. I think they expanded that as well this year too. So I think it's 8 players now you can bring back off IR, I think it was. And you have to miss 4 games minimum. So if you're missed 4 games, which is probably going to be N'Keal Harry, because it's an 8-week injury from what the experts are saying, they have to make the 53-man roster. Then you have to put them on IR, and then you can bring them off in 4 weeks. So with a guy like Sharp, maybe they kind of bring him on along extra because they don't want to lose him.
Yeah, Sharp's, this is going to be his 6th NFL season. Looks like he missed the 2017 season, so 7th season in the league, I guess. And he's not as young as you might think. So he's a veteran, but he's getting the reps and doing with opportunities there. All right, other side of that, cold bowl of porridge. I'll just start. I'm going to say Michael Schofield, just because he just didn't look all that good. I'm rooting for him, local guy. You hope that he's got, at least a year left in his body to perform, but he just, got beat real bad by Chris Jones real early. That was the very obvious blinking red light. Just thought he looked pretty stiff throughout his reps, and someone needs to take on that right guard role and solidify it. He was the guy that they signed to try to do that. Not a great start for him.
Yeah, he struggled, but to be fair, Chris Jones, one of the better defensive linemen in the league.
Right.
Let's see how Schofield cleans things up. He knows he didn't have that good game, so he's a pro. He's not a Pro Bowl type guy. He's a guy that is a plug-in. You hope you can kind of get by a season with him. He's a 1-year guy, so I think he'll be fine going forward. But yeah, he did have a bad game.
You have the same, or do you have somebody
else?
No,
I actually had Khalil Herbert.
Yeah, that's fair.
He had less than 3 yards a carry. It's not all him. Part of it's the O-line. It wasn't everything there for him, but a couple drops, and part of this maybe because Ebner's coming on. So I tweeted about it in the game. You have to be able to play pass protection. You have to be able to catch the ball out of the backfield. If you want to come in there and be the number 2, you got to do that part of the game. So last year he wasn't the best in pass pro. His receiving skills are okay, but first game out, a couple drops, less than 3 yards a pop. I got to go with Herbert for the Colt this week.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I actually thought that similarly, was kind of disappointed. He felt like he was dancing around a little bit, and needs to just kind of stick his foot in the ground and get north-south. Yep. So we'll see if he can recover in his next opportunities, because they're not going to run Montgomery much in the preseason, if at all, right? Like there's no need to run your number 1 back in preseason games. So, these are reps for those guys down the depth chart. Just right bowl of porridge here. I'm going to go with the right legs of Cairo Santos and Trenton Gill.
Nice.
First of all, absolutely what I expect from Santos. He came out pretty vocal about the turf at Soldier Field this last week, and just how terrible it is, and it completely beat up. They had a concert there, I guess, not that long ago, really beat up the field, and he was just taking them to task about how terrible the field was. I mean, there's some pretty like strong quotes about how bad the field is from Cairo Santos, but he's basically like, yeah, I mean, I'm a professional, I'll figure it out, but this is not a professional football field. He was 2 for 2. He just looks good. He's a good kicker. Oh my God, I love the fact that Cairo Santos is here. And then the rookie, Trent Gill. I mean, what? Where did this come from? This guy looked great. He dropped in multiple punts inside the 20. He had 3 inside the 20. Should have been 4. One of them dribbled into the end zone. He had 1 down inside the 5. And again, that one that went into the end zone should have been down. It looked like it was very close to being down. I mean, I don't want to be negative and be like, he's going to have a big year because, you don't want to talk about your punter having a big year, but punters can be weapons. Like, I think people get, punters, who cares? You just sign the cheapest one on free agency. And no, like, punters can actually be weapons. And we're starting to see more of those guys throughout the league where they actually do impact the game. And I think we've been kind of conditioned to mediocre with Pat. I mean, I'm not trying to throw shade on Pat O'Donnell, professional punter, average guy, right? But he's not a good punter. He's just a guy.
He's a guy.
And this guy had a great debut. Trenton Gill had a great debut. And it makes me think like maybe there's something to this where he can be a weapon for the Bears.
I had Trenton Gill as my just right as well this week. The
Awesome.
special teams love's got to be there. This is a team. It's a defensive head coach. Field position is going to matter for this team. They have some weapons at returner. So having a guy at punter that you feel is going to be able to do it. He had some nice hang time. Like you said, he had 3 punts in, that he put inside the 20. Good angle punter. He also can kick off for you. He kicked off in the game. Let's talk about his holding. He held the ball flawless for
perfect
Santos
hold.
So, hey, Trenton Gill is I know when he was drafted, who scouts punters, but Jacob Infante, some of the stuff that he did talk about him is, and a lot of other scouts said this, his approach. He has an extra step in his approach. They said that a lot of times a punter, you have to have a shorter approach in the college game to the NFL game. I don't know if he cleaned it up or not. I'm assuming he cleaned it up because he's a pro. But I didn't expect much out of Trenton Gill. I thought there'd be some competition. Really early in the offseason, the Bears cut the other punter. I can't remember his name now, but they're comfortable with Gill. That showed in the first preseason game. Let's see him build on this, and let's keep it going.
Yeah, I mean, it's weird to be excited about a punter. I get it, but I did a Q&A with the Seahawks guy, not last year, the year before, and they were so excited about their punter. Like he basically asked me, like, do you know about our punter and how awesome he is? Like, that was one of his questions to me. And I'm just like, I don't know your punter. And he's good. Like the Seahawks punter is good. I can't remember his name. My punter knowledge is a little lower than other position groups. I will admit something I need to work on. It's a hole in my game. I need to improve that. He's an Australian guy, I think. Right. Okay. So there's a lot of these Australian guys that come in, and he is really good. And then in the draft, it's pretty obvious that they're going to either take a punter or they're going to sign one undrafted free agent. And everybody was focusing on that punt god guy, the Arizona
Azaria?
State guy. Yeah. And he had like an 82-yard punt, which that's pretty good. But there's more to punting than just I love flipping the field. It's a personal favorite of mine for many reasons. But that 82-yard punt can flip the field, but you have to be able to be a skilled punter as well. You have, like you said, ankle punting, hang time, trying to drop it in. Like there's a lot of skill set to being a good punter. Like, Hecker is a really great punter because he can do all those things and he can be a weapon, for his teams. But I don't know, man. I was excited. Here again, first preseason game. I'm getting excited about punters.
Punters. Yeah.
Football's back. That's all I can say. We're excited. So let's get out of here. Do you have any final thoughts on the game, or what's going on the channel, or what do you want to talk about?
I do have one final thought. I want to talk about Trayvon Jenkins a little bit.
Okay.
Because as I'm watching the game, I thought it was kind of up and down. But I see some stuff on Twitter, on social media, and they were like taking him to task, saying that he was awful. He looked really bad out there. When I rewatched the game, I didn't see that. I think he's fine. I mean, he's still in his ramp up process. who knows what the injury, if there was one. I mean, that's what the Bears kind of talked about, but I thought Tevin Jenkins looked pretty good, and until we see who ends up starting at that right tackle spot, maybe he'll push someone for that job. And I know there has been some work at right guard as well. Maybe he can kind of be a right guard, right tackle kind of guy this season. But I thought Tevin Jenkins was much better than what some of the people thought.
Yeah, let's see if he can start to win some reps earlier in these
Yeah,
preseason games. Let's see if he can kind of ride up here as the weeks wear on. I mean, this is mid-August. It's August 14th right now. He's got some time
he does.
to do that. He's behind everybody right now, and obviously he was playing late into the game. So we'll see. I mean, there's a possibility that he's the best right guard on the roster, and he just doesn't know it yet, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's see what happens. They have been willing to move guys around and try to find the best starting five. You'd hope that would continue. At some point, all the BS is behind you, and you're on the field and you're contributing. They talk about how great you've been in meetings, you've been attentive. I don't know that the Bears are going to hold anything against him for what happened in the first week of training camp. So if he's there and he's putting in the work and he shows, the NFL is a meritocracy, right? I mean, to some degree, there's first round draft picks are always going to get another chance. Like there's some of that stuff where there isn't so much the meritocracy stuff. There's some scholarship, effect.
Yeah.
I mean, I understand that, but generally, the guys that are performing better are going to get on the field. They push themselves on. So if he's able to push through the roster as he rounds himself into shape, I would imagine that the Bears will put him on the field. So that's more valuable for this new regime to figure out that they have value in a young offensive lineman that has 2 years left after this year on his contract. So if he's good and they can get something out of him this year, they will do that. I mean, Michael Schofield's not the future of the Bears. Riley Reif's not the future of the Bears. Like he can work his way into this because it's for the benefit of the Bears to do that. So I agree with you. I didn't see the awful. I saw the up and down.
Yeah.
So
there was a good article on, I think it was NBC Chicago had an article, and I think CHGO also had an article about Tevin Jenkins. So it wasn't just me that kind of went back and rewatched and thought he was played okay. It's out there a little bit. So it's cool. I mean, Tevin Jenkins, I'm a fan. I love what he did in college. I like what he did a little bit last year. I want to see him. I think it's a great story that he goes from what he went through early in camp in the offseason, the drama, whatever it was. Who knows behind the scenes what happened was. But if he can overcome that, bust his butt and come back and become a big-time player for this franchise, that it's going to be awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. For those of you that are live streaming with us, we're going to get you your questions here in a bit. We're going to close out the podcast by saying, please visit us on Second City Gridiron and subscribe. We're trying to get to 1,000 subscribers. Lester has a lot of fun stuff in a package that he is going to send to one subscriber once we get to that 1,000 mark. So, if nothing else, if you like free stuff, you get to jump in with a chance for that. Follow us on Twitter at GridironBorn and at WiltfongJR. And we got a ton of stuff going on the website. We got a ton of stuff on the podcast channel. We're going to have a ton of stuff on the YouTube channel as well. Taylor's show continues to pull some really fun guests, making monsters. Make sure you're checking Taylor and Dylan out for really good interviews there. Bill Zimmerman, he's getting back in. He's pulling interesting guests to talk about the Bears season. EJ and I, now that EJ's bootleg binge is looks like it's he's reached the end of that, we'll be cranking Bears Over Beers up here soon. Robert's getting back on the mic. He cut a show right after the game yesterday. He had Sam Householder on, so we have plenty of Bears content for you on that channel, and we're going to put more and more of it up on YouTube as well, so make sure you're checking us out there. But until next time, guys, thanks for joining us, and bear down. All right. We have a lot of questions or comments.
There was like a mini battle going on between the resident Lion guy. But,
okay. All right.
It's funny because like when he jumps in like he always does. Like, hey, I appreciate Don jumping in here and giving us the view and giving us some comments. So, and it's funny when he jumped in is when we kind of started talking about the Lions. So it's kind of ironic how they kind of worked out there. But yeah, I mean it's Detroit versus everybody. He's back in there again, but we'll see how that goes here.
I gotta love it. All right. Let's see. Luke Tarski encouraging to see the team establishing identity. Totally agree.
Yeah.
Totally agree. I mean, I really think it did show through. Let's see. Leo says Fields look like he needs those preseason reps. I think everybody does. Like, I mean, he's a young quarterback. I mean, even Mahomes got a series, right? I mean,
Yeah.
like let's just realize that I think these guys do need them, right? They do need to get the hit. So he needs the reps. He needs all he can get.
And then you look at the Bears first team offense, they're missing Montgomery. They're missing Cole Kmet. They were missing some guys at receiver. They were missing Reef. So they were playing shorthanded as well. So, get those reps, get in there and see what happens there.
Yeah, he adds on, hated seeing Fields get hit in the head like that. I mean, yes, absolutely. It wasn't that bad of a hit, but it needed to be flagged. That was the kind of the crazy thing. You'd like to see a little bit more consistent calls throughout the league. It does seem like the young guys don't get the calls quite as well as the older guys, but you need to be, if they're playing quarterback and they're giving themselves up on a slide like that. A little later on, Brisker, had somebody dead to rights. The guy kind of slid down and he just kind of jumped over him. That's what those guys can all do that, right? Like if you're going to lay into the quarterback, you deserve to get tossed, buddy.
So did you notice after that hit that wasn't called, it was Larry Borum and Schofield both kind of, they went up there. They chirped at the, I think it was Thornhill, the DB for the Chief there. Nothing physical, but, letting him know that they did not appreciate them touching their quarterback. And you want to see that out of your guys.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. We got a couple comments from Nomad. He agrees with your analysis of Coley, a stick of dynamite, which is a good way to put that. And then he says he thought that Tevin Jenkins got more and more impressive as the game went on. That's probably true. I guess I didn't think of it that way, but he also said, man, Nomad going for it. Wouldn't surprise him if Ja'Tyre Carter got some run with the ones on Thursday night.
They got to do something at right guard.
They got to do something. I don't know that Carter stood out to me yet or anything like that. Maybe it's a next man up and see what he can do, but I think it's too early to pull the plug on Schofield. I know he didn't look good, but I'm not quite there.
Chris Jones is really good too.
He's really good. Yeah. Like top. Like I mean, there's Aaron Donald. He's in his own tier.
He's in his own. Yeah.
And then you like exit the God level tier, and then it's like, oh yeah, Chris Jones. Like I mean, it's just he's right there. Let's see. Don, I love it, man. Just keep coming back. I can't wait to play the Lions. It's going to be great. Here it is for everybody to see. Rookie of the year. He's already calling it. Aiden tackle for loss Hutchinson.
It's very possible that he does win Rookie of the year.
He's got the best odds.
Damn good football player. It was I did not like the Lions drafting him.
Listen, incredible rendition of Billie Jean on Hard Knocks.
That was terrible.
Oh, incredible rendition. Got the man. Guys were just like they were throwing their shirts. I mean, that was fantastic. Good for you guys. You gotta. I love the local kid signs stories, right? Or if the local kid gets drafted. I love those. So good for you guys. Honestly, I'm all good for it. And I gave a compliment to the Lions earlier, right?
I know, right?
Like we'll see here. Brisker rise angry. Yes, absolutely loved him. Watching. I don't know. Maybe to me, no one's talking about it this way, but I think he's going to be a fan favorite. Like I think people are going to just love this guy. All right. Yeah, I see the back and forth. Here we go. Steven. Trenton Gill, long-term all-pro. Go ahead and bet it. I tweeted out yesterday. Where do I find the odds for Trenton Gill rookie of the year? Like, where are they? What kind of odds can I get on that? They'll never give it to a punter. But like, I'm again, great first impression. Obviously, it's a little exaggeration for effect here. No bad things. Sanborn and Lucky to make the special teams. I don't know what that means, but
it might be maybe he was a practice squad there. It might have been a little joke back and forth there.
So. Oh, okay. All right. All right. You can click on these if you want. There's a lot. This is the most comments we've ever had. Appreciate it, guys.
Bears fans are back. They're fired up. They want to talk about the team. So That's good to see. There was a comment here about it's from Steven wanting to see more equanimity of St. Brown. He had a nice end around, and then they had the Bears had one later to Daz, which I love those end arounds. Just more misdirection stuff. Again, it's with Nagy, and I hate talking about the old regime, but with Nagy, it was like they would run it, and it just wasn't. There were no rhyme or reason to why they were running it. With hopefully with Getsy, we'll see stuff set up better. We'll see the misdirection actually mean something. We'll see stuff that are off of those same looks. So I think that's good. I think St. Brown's going to be fine. I'm not expecting a huge year from him, but I think he is going to be your starting X, and he'll go from there. Oh, my bad.
Oh, you take it.
Just real quick, Rice and John, I think the Bears were his second team. He was Giant a couple years ago. There was a couple questions about him in there. Big, 6'7", played wide receiver in Canada. Is where he went to college. The Bears were missing their top 3 tight ends. That's why they had Rice and John playing under so much. Practice squatter, if that. He does have some upside, like I said, because he's 6'7". I think he's 4.6 speed out of that spot. He's definitely going to be a move tight end, the Y. He's not the U. He's not a Y. But it's possible that he makes the team on the practice squad and keep developing. He may turn into something.
Yeah. Den Master Ken in the house. He said somebody said, yeah, it was an 82-yard punt, but it only netted 62. Only netted 62.
That's still a good net.
Is a very good punt. So, yeah, very funny. Yeah, I don't think that football fans really know how to talk about punts, actually. I mean, honestly. I just don't. I think they think it's a throwaway thing, but punting is actually pretty important. I had some friends that were punters, so I always want to stick up for the punter.
Nice.
And I blocked for punters, right? I mean, you get those special teams reps too. I never really could go down and make the tackle, but let's see. Cloudy's in here. Love Cloudy. Tevin Jenkins comments here. Thought he was okay. Up and down, not terrible. Yeah, I mean, there's plenty more rope here for Tevin Jenkins to figure it out. He's ramping it up.
A week, so.
Let's see. Kyler Gordon. Good question by Ken here. I mean, if he doesn't get on the field, then yeah, you have to worry about it, right? I mean, he's he was practicing early. When we were there, he was practicing, but he hasn't really practiced lately. Again, it's middle of August. He's got time to get back. I don't really know what's up with him or why he's missed time, but if he can't get on the field, then they're going to have to go to their backup options here. And I don't know what that is. Lamar Jackson played quite a bit. My guy, Lamar Jackson, I've been cheering for him to make the roster. He looked like he was in with the ones, or he was in early. And I thought that he needs to wrap up. Yeah, he's not going to take everybody down with the little shoulder tackles. So didn't love that. But I think Jackson's got enough juice to make the roster. I just don't want to see him as a long-term starter. Not yet.
Yeah, it's funny. With Kyler Gordon's there's several Bears that Coach Fluss is calling day-to-day. But he's missed like a week. Yeah. Him, Jones, there were a couple other guys in the mix. So I'm not too concerned yet. Like I said, it's middle of August. But if this day-to-day turns into a week-to-week, then it's something to be concerned about, because the Bears are also missing, like you mentioned, they had to start Lamar Jackson at corner. They're missing Vildor, who has had a pretty good camp. I know he was a popular target of Bears fans last year, but he's having a good camp so far. He's a better fit for this scheme, getting starter reps outside when they move Gordon to the slot. So, they got to figure out some stuff at DB, but I'm not too worried about Gordon yet.
Yeah, I'm close. Probably if another week, then I'll start to worry. Again, Ken's bringing in some good questions here. I want to highlight them as well. One dark horse each to make the 53. I mean, I'm not great at that. Just because you get locked in. Like, Jackson's been my guy, but now he kind of looks like he's going to make the roster. So when I was at camp at the first 3 days, I don't know where any of these guys stack, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they're so new. You're not really seeing who's starters or second team. You kind of are, but to me, it was like, that looks like a pretty good call for like my dark horse to make the roster. Now it feels like that actually looks like it's going to happen. Sanborn would have been a good pick before yesterday, but I mean, that doesn't look like a dark horse anymore. I'm wondering if you got a D lineman in mind. that might be able to make it.
I mean, Coley is a guy that, he's
Yeah.
pushing for a spot here. I mean, I have to see more of him, but I think he's a guy. I think at safety, I know Elijah Hicks, the draft pick. A lot of fans were happy with him when he was picked because he's got such high energy. But I thought I think it's AJ Thomas,
Oh,
undrafted free agent safety. He made some good plays. A very physical player. They talked about him on the Chicago feed that he played a lot of box stuff. When I did go back and look at some of his college film, I believe he's the guy that played some linebacker early in his college career. So physical presence, he may be a guy, but it's going to be tough. I mean, the 53-man roster, there'll be a lot of fluctuation all season long. The practice squad, I think, is 16 players this year. You're allowed to move guys up and down a little more this year than you did in years past. So it's going to be interesting to see how they work these young roster spots.
yeah. I don't know. I guess I'll throw out Pettis. I don't know how dark horse that is either. I think he's just got too much talent.
He does.
That they're going to like him to give him a shot. So I do feel like he's going to get one of those 6 spots, and we didn't talk about him yet. So I figured I might mention that here. Then the last one I can pull from Ken, the Den Master, before I mean, guys, awesome with the questions. I might have lost it. If I didn't click on you, I'm sorry, but that was a lot of comments. But Ken said best and worst defensive line edge performances, and I wanted to make sure we didn't talk about Dominic Robinson. And I watched him for a bit live, and I thought, he's got the speed.
Does, yes.
But I wasn't seeing a counter yet.
Thank you.
And so if you got one pitch, you're not going to get a ton of snaps. So he has to develop a counter. I thought he was handled pretty easily with their left tackle. The sack that he got was unblocked, and then he snuck around the back. The back didn't pick him up. So number 2 for the Chiefs, whoever the heck that is, wasn't able to pick him up. Looks great, shot out of a cannon. But the tackle was able to take care of him pretty easy in his pass pro sets. And again, I don't know who was playing left tackle for the Chiefs at the time. I would assume it's their backup, right? Yeah. So again, pass rushers to me are like pitchers in baseball. And if you can only throw a fastball, it better be 105-mile-an-hour fastball that you can locate. And if it's not that, you're probably not going to be that effective, because you need to be able to change it up. You need to throw a different pitch. And so once he figures that out, that's when he's going to get on the field. That, to me, the running backs have to figure out pass pro to get on the field. The defensive end rush linebackers have to have more than one move, or it has to be such a S tier move for them to get on the field. I love the quickness. I wasn't in love with the performance. I'll put it that way.
We're always in sync with a lot of our analysis. I had the exact same notes written down for Dominic Robinson. When the game ended, there was a ton of praise for Robinson.
Mm-hmm.
Not just from Bears fans. There were some national guys tweeting out the video clip of his sack. This is what you want to see out of a pick, a 5th-round draft pick. Like you said, the sack was a gimme. He wasn't blocked. So I hope you make that play. And when I'm watching the game, you said there's no counter. My notes are saying he gets stuck on blocks.
Yep, right.
He runs into to the left tackle, and if the speed doesn't get him around the edge, he doesn't know what to do. I think he's a lock to make the roster based on potential alone, based on draft status. I just can't see them letting him, test in the waters and letting him go. I think he makes it, but like you said, he's got to have a counter, whether that's a spin move, whether it's something else. He's got to figure out something to counter off that speed. A nice duck and under move, something he has to pull out. Like you said, if you don't have enough tools in your toolbox at defensive end, you're not going to be very successful in the NFL.
You probably didn't need to have them in college, right? Yeah. I mean, this is Miami of Ohio guy, right?
It's like his second year playing defensive end too. He was a receiver. Before that, he was a quarterback. So
just kept growing.
Yeah, he's learning
right.
the new position here, and but I like the potential.
Yeah, and he was unblocked on a run. They ran away from him unblocked, which is very common. To leave the backside D end linebacker free, and he hustled over, and he was able to help make the play from the backside. So that's good. You could see the speed, you can see the hustle, all that stuff's good, right? Like that's the good part. Again, unless learn everything you can about speed rush from Robert Quinn while he's here. Okay. And then number 2, figure out something else, and then you can get on the field. Until then, I don't see it.
No.
I think that they're gonna, because he's smaller too. That's the other thing. So I don't know how he's going to hold up in the run game.
He'll be one of these guys that make the roster, but he's probably going to be inactive every week.
Yeah, he's not going to dress.
If there's an injury, they'll dress him. But I like, you mentioned Robert Quinn. I like the Muhammad. I like Gibson.
Yeah.
I thought they both flashed pretty good. So I'm not worried about the pass rush. I know a lot of fans think that they need some extra help there, but I think their top 3 guys are solid.
Yeah, I agree. I think we got through most of them.
We did.
I appreciate all the comments. I appreciate everybody coming in here and joining us. And I think you can tell we're both excited to get real football.
Finally.
It's a long off season every year, and we try to do our best to create content that's not just like hypothetical. Here's a list, of something. No offense, we all have to put out content, and I've made my share of lists in the past too. But we're we try to create something that's a little bit more original and break stuff down. But there's not a lot to go off of. Right? There's not a lot to go off of when it's a new regime. You're trying to pull from what you can, and you're trying to project and get excited. We finally have something to watch. It's so exciting. So thanks everybody. We're back. We're cranking it up. We're going to have, I think, maybe up to like 8 live streams or some combination of live stream podcasts coming up every week. I mean, we're going to have a ton of fun. I'm really excited for what this team has planned and working with these guys, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And we're glad to have all of you here with us. So we'll see you soon. We'll see you next weekend at some point. We'll have to figure out. Lester and I
Bears play Thursday this week.
Thursday, so maybe we can do Friday if you get home early enough.
Yeah.
If not, I have a wedding to go to.
We'll do Saturday. I'm good.
Might do
We'll
Saturday
figure
morning.
It out.
Might do Saturday morning because I got to do some stuff on Saturday as well. So anyway, we'll let you guys know, and you can always just rewatch it. So appreciate it. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.